So yesterday, Arc Raiders weekly update was unexpectedly postponed, and while coming off the heels of last week's major update of the Flashpoint by comparison to the rest of the month's updates, it didn't seem like much would be pushed back by a day. It was just still a little odd, but that 24 hours has come and gone, and today we have update 1.23 available for us that you'll be prompted to download for the first time when you boot up the game on Steam, PlayStation, or Xbox. Today we're taking a look at what changed here because, while quantifiably it's not the largest patch we've ever seen, most of the mid-month patches aren't that. This one did have some impactful changes that affect gameplay and game stability, but there still may be some things that you were hoping to see that didn't quite make it into this update. So drop your thoughts as we go along, drop a like if you enjoyed the video, and make sure to subscribe for more Arc Raiders and other FPS content. As well, keep an eye out. We might be live here later today on the channel as well, time permitting, so that we can jump in and talk about the update or anything else further in Arc or gaming if you want to join in on that conversation. Finally, be on the lookout for a few Raider token codes we'll be dropping throughout the video. We had a few extras, so wanted to share those with you guys. Best of luck in grabbing them. But anyways, let's talk about the update. Today's update 1.23 was, right up front, about stability and gameplay fixes and changes mostly. The only content that was added in with today's update was the inclusion of the new shop content of the Vanguard set, this being one of those main marketed cosmetic bundles from Flashpoint and beyond. This comes at the price of 1,600 Raider tokens as a discounted price that it'll showcase. That maybe just for the launch, though not entirely sure how long that will last. Last week's update with the Brigade set is still on discount, so guess we'll see for that one. But that bundle comes with the Vanguard outfit, 3 different color options, further customization with the helmet, mask, pauldron, sleeve, chest pouch, leg pouch, and the battle teddy strapped to his leg, along with another backpack and a scrappy helmet. It is there if you guys are interested at all, but yeah, that's the only visible content you'll see added with this update. The meat and potatoes of this update comes from the game fixes. So let's get into that. Firstly, the bigger ticket items here out of this. Trigger nades ended up fixing an issue where 2 trigger nades would sometimes deal 3 times the damage when detonated next to each other. Sometimes is kind of doing some heavy lifting on that patch note. I've seen plenty of different clips of gunfights where people are just chucking trigger nades, and there would be oftentimes 2 that would detonate in that close vicinity, dealing statistically more damage than what they should. So obviously that's definitely nice to see. PvP players out there, trigger nades have still been a sore spot for a long time, so to see that then kind of come back into the conversation with a bugged damage number, obviously nice to see that ironed out. Item swapping was something that with the update for Flashpoint, there was an issue in which there'd be a delay after quickly swapping to it on your quick selection wheel. They wouldn't immediately be able to use that item that you ended up selecting. This issue has now been ironed out and shouldn't be any sort of problem at the moment. Obviously the quick selection wheel, very useful in a ton of situations, but especially with people checking out the new close scrutiny mode. If you got a ton of arcs surrounding you, swapping to that cloak or smoke or shield recharger or something could be life or death. So to have that delay was definitely problematic. Nice to see that that is fixed out. Weapons firing automatically was also an issue that players had. Where this issue was fixed, this was something that would happen to a ton of players, especially right after a reload, where as soon as you'd reload, it would automatically fire another round. Now, for some scenarios and weapons, it may just be like an annoying bug, but for things like the Pharaoh, obviously, we'd see a larger problem if you only have one in the chamber at a time before reloading. So this update should now have alleviated that problem as well that players could have had, and reloading should now be safe again. The Rocketeer audio was reverted. This was a minor issue, but one that was almost immediately recognizable. Obviously, you wouldn't have things like vaporizers and standard modes, but when the Rocketeer would lock onto you in any condition outside of close scrutiny, it would make the same audio as if it was a vaporizer. These kind of bugs happen all the time and are easy to slip through the cracks in game dev, but my theory is just because they come from the same archetype that there are some sort of wires crossed, hypothetically speaking, as in they're both so similar that that trigger got the wires crossed a little bit and the audio would play for both. Obviously not a big problem, but for some pattern recognition, situational awareness, it's nice to know based off the audio cues what's suspicious of you or even aggroed onto you. Anyways, crashing was another thing that was mentioned, and this was a big one that I've seen a lot of complaints on. I don't play on console, so I can't chime in from my own personal experience, but there's been no denying the amount of people talking about this and having this issue. For this, they said they fixed some instances where certain visual effects could cause crashes. We are continuing to investigate all cases that cause crashes. So this, it's not very specific, which is unfortunate, and even more unfortunate is that from when this was posted, it appears that the reports of crashing, especially with the PlayStation 5 Pro and other console versions of the game, has seemingly persisted. So it doesn't seem like this has been entirely ironed out, but a wing of that per se has been fixed a little bit, but the main problem still might be there for you if that's something that is affecting you. Speaking of another issue that has seemingly persisted, the bug since Flashpoint where you jump and will trip on something at the point of a ledge, sometimes being beneficial to negate fall damage, other times just being annoying to visually have to go through that, and it pauses any sort of movement and momentum you'd have. That appears to not be fixed or ironed out as well. So that might be something that if you jump, you still might fall randomly or trip over something mid-air, it seems like, but that's something that is still persisting. As for additional changes, they fixed an issue where the weapon upgrade UI would show incorrect upgrade tiers, this referring to the upgrade showcasing a tier 4 to a tier 5, something we currently do not have in the game. That was there for the last couple of days since the Flashpoint update, and not to be a tinfoil hat person, but part of me thinks this might have been an expansion of the upgrade feature that was pushed live prematurely. I mean, think of the implications of the UI. Everything is connected through it, right? I've had discussions with multiple UI designers across my 10 plus years of content and getting the opportunity to chat with studio designers and everything. UI is Loki at Idrisil in Marvel tying everything together. So when we see things most recently like Scrappy's UI being changed in Shrouded Skies back in February, and then kind of sitting dormant for a month before the UI update and included the feed feature that we see now that requires that space that was previously blank, kind of makes you wonder if that tier 5 was truly a mistake or a future preview. But anyways, they fixed the shoulder swap issue that players would have where the cam would get stuck. They fixed an exploit where the anvil splitter could be used without any penalty for dispersion. Barricades can no longer have zip lines placed on it. Maps had a few things, like the medical research locked room would sometimes set players on fire even though they're outside of it. That being the sort of a glitch through countermeasure that players would end up encountering to discourage players from glitching through that door instead of using the intended key. They fixed a spot on Stella where players could get shot through the floor. Staircases in Buried City sometimes were missing. The code printer on Locked Gate sometimes wasn't able to be interacted with on the Locked Gate map condition, and notably there also was still one spot that did persist with Blue Gate that I haven't seen mentioned as fixed. Just be aware of it, especially with the tripping bug happening that I fell through the entire world with, so just as a heads up. In close scrutiny, they changed the momentum for Rocketeers and Vaporizers so they don't behave strangely while idling anymore, as well as all arcs summoned by the Assessor will now correctly leave the area and despawn if they remain idle for a long time. So this is something that I'm sure will probably be more recognizable when people like try and just immediately go for the Assessors, smoke it off, and then try and get the loot out of there. But those arc that are summoned will of course then despawn, and there won't be a sea of arc you have to contend with while just passing through the area when everybody's moved on to the next Assessor. So just things to know. Now as for the update cadence, I'd imagine things get back on track with next Tuesday, maybe giving some more fixes to things that didn't quite get fixed with this update, but still the larger update is coming later this month. The Riven Tides update with a new map, the new large arc, and other things like the expedition window opening up shortly thereafter. That stuff is still a little ways off. So while a lot of this stuff we see here in the next week or 2 weeks or however long until they decide to drop the Riven Tides update, that is something that it'll be a bit more minor in scale compared to the larger content updates coming. And for a lot of players, I'm sure that the Riven Tides update is the next big one they're really focused on and looking forward to. But in the meantime, I do think there is still some work that can be done and that can make the overall gameplay experience a little more enjoyable day to day. But anyways, yeah, if you're looking forward to a little more, next Tuesday is probably your next one. But that's where we're going to wrap it up. Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think of this update? Do you think it made some good changes? Not so much. Drop your thoughts. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor, drop a like on it. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so don't miss a single thing learning all things Arc Raiders and even more FPS content. I'd love to have in the community. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.